Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to the This Is My Moment podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mitchell, and here at This Is My Moment, we love having a good time, we love to see you smile, and we love meeting new people. And it's season 2, baby. Let's go get it.
There ain't no stopping it, this is my moment. Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all
So today, I got a young lady on the other end of this line. I think we're gonna have some fun. I've been laughing since I got her on the line. If she's ready to get to it, I'm ready to get to it. Introduce yourself now.
Hi, family. I'm Christina. I live in New York City. I'm an author and a licensed New York City tour guide and a whole bunch of stuff. But how about just kind of a lover of life? How about that?
So I'm researching you, right, Christina, and I saw something that caught my attention. So I want to get that out the way first. It talked about one gift that you got that no one would want. I like presents, but in order for somebody to have a gift that no one wants, I want to know what that is. What's that?
Making it through 9/11 and
Mm.
surviving a serious case of COVID.
Mm.
But that's the gift you don't want, but the gift you do want is what happened, which is I survived it.
So we're going to talk about 9/11, then we're going to talk about COVID. All right? Let's talk about 9/11. You said you survived it. What happened?
So my husband and I, we live within the neighborhood where the attacks took place. So the Twin Towers were within the World Trade Center complex, and we're living just a few blocks away from that. So it affected us in many different ways. And there's actually about 25,000 who lived in proximity to that complex. And so I have kind of a common story in that way. But I'll just say that, so we lived within a few blocks. That morning, I was asleep. My husband was awake. The impact of the first plane hitting the North Tower actually shook our building. My husband knew something horrible had happened. So he came and shook me awake, said something awful's going on right now. We ran onto our terrace. And this is probably the different aspect of my story, is that we had a 24th floor, 300 square foot terrace that faced the Twin Towers. This is one of the reasons why we got this apartment, because the view was just incredible.
Yeah.
But we stood on that terrace looking at the flames coming out of the building, not knowing what was going on, hearing literally like screams from the collective screaming from people running away, from the police sirens, from the fire ambulances, and just kind of taking in this nightmare when all of a sudden over our right-hand shoulder, the second plane came, went right over our shoulders, went right into the South Tower, turned what I call an 8 o'clock and 2 o'clock and went in. And we were so close to that plane that the shock waves of the plane going into that South Tower actually blew us back into our apartment and knocked me out on the floor. And I woke up on our living room floor. My husband was yelling different things. I just remember kind of hopping up. My husband grabbed our dog. We ran on the 24 flights. I was in my pajamas, no shoes. And that was a part of the craziness of that day. We ended up evacuating to Battery Park. The Twin Towers came down, covered us with dust and debris. We couldn't breathe. Smoke, and from the smoke and from the crumbling towers that literally you couldn't see 5 feet within a radius of yourself, because it was just everywhere. And we said goodbye to each other, just feeling like this is anything worse than we weren't survive this. We weren't even sure we were going to survive it. And we ended up being evacuated by boat in the largest boat evacuation in history. We didn't get back into our apartment for 2 more weeks after that. The drama continued to unfold. It turns out one of my husband's closest friends had died in the South Tower, and our dog actually did end up passing away from 9/11 causes. He lifted that dust, which covered all of us, including him and his fur, which contained, among other things, ground up glass that shredded his insides. And it just was kind of like we came to our own ground zero in the aftermath, kind of suffering from PTSD, never had ever suffered from that before. I thought that was for returning military vets. And
Yeah.
it just was a bad, tough time for everybody. I mean, it's really hard for me to feel like I'm complaining because again, we weren't in the planes, we weren't in the towers,
Yeah.
we were just neighbors of the complex, but it was a very real threat, a very real danger, and something that basically all of our roads, even currently, lead back to that day because it changed ourselves and our lives so profoundly.
I was in the service when that happened, and I was stationed in Okinawa. I was in Okinawa, and my sister, she called me, and I was asleep, and she was like, "Pat, you saw what happened?" And I was like, "No, I'm asleep." And no sooner she called me, we got a call from our command saying, "Get dressed, go to work," and they put us on 24-hour shifts when that happened. So I was affected just because I was in the military, but you are the first person that I've ever talked to, ever, that was like in the trenches of it. And I'm not going to minimize PTSD because it plays out differently. So this is what I want to ask you.
Sure.
I'm gonna get into the PTSD part, but I want to know this about you. What's your definition of mental toughness? What do you think mental toughness is? How do you define it?
When I think of mental toughness, I think of kind of an attitude of being able to embrace change and doing something productive with the negative aspects of life or negative things that you go through,
Hmm.
because it's so easy to be buried, right?
Yeah.
Everybody goes through tough times. It's
Yeah.
how you process that,
Hmm.
how you overcome it so you can continue on with your life in a productive, meaningful way.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I look at it as like where others can see insurmountable boundaries,
Yeah.
mentally tough people see challenges to overcome,
I
right?
did.
And again, I just look at it as like just kind of embracing change and having the ability to be flexible in life.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, let's be honest. A lot of that is our personality types, right?
Mm.
I think some people are just naturally more flexible. Some people are naturally, it's easier for them to embrace change.
Yeah.
But the reality is no matter what lens we all individually see life,
Yeah.
to have a successful one, despite all the challenges that life throws at us, you have to have some modicum of being able to go with it
True
and
that.
get through. And to me, that's
Man.
what mental toughness
So
is how
here's
how you can make it through.
and that's spot on to me. So here's my next question. That dust and that debris, right? And that and all the stuff that you see and getting knocked back into the apartment, right? Where were you at? And not even that. I'm gonna get to that. Did you have to go to like the doctor or stuff? Because I know that the like breathing in all those chemicals and that dust and stuff, and even for me, they make you go and take these chest X-rays and do these breathing tests, right? Did you do that stuff?
Yeah, so my husband and I are a member of a club that we didn't really want to join. It's a club that nobody would really want to, but it's the same thing as having the gift that nobody would ever want. We are a member of something called the World Trade Center Health Registry, and what
Uh,
that is we are closely monitored to see the effects of 9/11 had on our health. We go
mm,
to specific doctors. We go all the time. There's been over 70 different cancers that have been um, linked to inhaling the 9/11 toxins,
wow.
and it's still killing people to this day. You
Yeah.
might know that we have surpassed the threshold that more people have died in the aftermath of the toxin inhalation than the
Yeah.
almost 3,000 people who died on the day of 9/11. And so we're just constantly monitored. And also, it's why I believe I got a very bad case of COVID, is because our health
Mm,
has been compromised due to inhaling those toxins, which we not only did that day, but we did until the 2 years after we moved out of that particular apartment because
yeah.
we were inhaling it every single day.
So while you were in the apartment, it was still debris in the air that you guys were living with. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that
Yes.
how?
Yes, because we were right next to the complex as they were cleaning it out and
Oh,
rebuilding. So it was
yeah.
always constantly being kicked into the air. I would literally stuff every nook and cranny, all of our windows, our doors, And I would awaken every single morning to a thin layer of dust that had accumulated overnight. And it's because of the cleanup and the building process. And gotta understand, there was, like, for instance, a building called the Deutsche Bank building. It was the last of the 8 buildings that were demolished due to the Twin Towers. Yet it took them 10 years to bring that building down, which is like a whole other side story that we won't go into. But they believe that that building, just the fact that it was stood erected, was still literally gushing out 9/11 toxins into the air until the day that it was taken down, which was 10 years later. So it's not just so it was bad enough, again, with the constant cleaning and rebuilding of the 16-acre complex, but it was within and without all of the buildings surrounding it. You just couldn't completely erase all the toxins and dust and debris from all. It's a major congested area around the World Trade Center complex. So in 2017, or was it 2016, they found landing gear of one of the planes lodged behind a building. I mean, it's still a constant process of finding materials. They're even still identifying people who remains who died. It is a constant process. It is 9/11 is very much alive in New York City.
That's heavy, man, and I don't wish PTSD on nobody, because I live with it. And the funny thing about PTSD, right? You can get internal, but this here, man, this here is the worst part about PTSD. Like, from my interactions and the way I got it, I can close my eyes and I can still picture it happening like it was yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So it was very difficult for me to get rid of my PTSD, even if I talk about it, go to counseling, all those things. And I can't imagine your PTSD and then still being inside of that same situation 2 years later, then 10 years later, coming from this other building. Man, I'm glad you're moving forward.
I have to say this. Just last night, I had a nightmare that I fell from a building. I mean, that was just last night, and we're 22 years later. So I think it's just one of those. You just learn how to move on and deal with it, because I guess in some form it never goes away.
I don't think it ever goes away, and you're right. You just have to learn how to deal with it, learn how to cope and push. Tell me how you survived COVID. Give me that.
So in March 2020, I'm a licensed New York City tour guide, as I told you. I did a tour. I do regular tours of the 9/11 Memorial and the complex. So I believe I actually caught COVID from somebody on that particular tour. So by March 17th of 2020, I knew that I had COVID.
Yeah.
And we had been, the World Trade Center Health Registry that I referred to had sent out a lot of warnings to all of us saying, hey, listen, it's coming. You already have compromised immune systems. Try to get out of the city, do whatever you can to stay safe. So we were my husband and I were on high alert. We actually left this city in an attempt to outrun it, but it already caught us. And yeah, I was hospitalized twice, told that I had a 50% chance of survival. And it was just a truly terrifying time, because really you felt like your body was literally in a warfare. I remember in one particular night that I'm still feel very grateful that I survived it. One particular night, my body was literally in a war. Who's going to win? Is it going to be those ugly little spores that we're also used to seeing those pictures of? Or is it going to be my immune system? And it was like your body was in a total war. But even my doctors told me, which I didn't have to be told, I knew it anyway, that it was 9/11 related. The reason why I got such a bad case, because again, we go to doctors regularly. We're not as healthy as we would have been probably if we hadn't endured, gone through 9/11. So it was just a scary time. Thankfully, I did survive. Had long haul COVID, probably for the rest I barely moved for the rest of the year, to tell you the truth. And but like I said, it's almost like when I said all my roads nowadays lead right back to that day of 9/11, that included the COVID experience.
Goodness.
Everything leads back to that day for
Yeah.
my husband and I.
Goodness gracious, goodness gracious. I tell you what, man, like COVID to me was real crazy because it kind of made me look at life different, right? Like I started respecting the summers that I have left more, if that makes any sense. Like I wanted to make the most of the time that I have left because I had seen young people pass away, like young cats, like you dying too early. Then I saw the older people, and then I saw people my age, man, and people were just passing away. I had 5 relatives inside of 1 year pass away from COVID. 5. And I'm not, when I say relatives, I'm not talking about like fifth and sixth cousins. I'm talking about like first and second cousins. You know what I mean? Aunties and uncles. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta be more thankful for the time that I have left because obviously at the blink of an eye, the situation could be upside down quick. Let me ask you this. Living through the COVID, living through that 9/11, how are you living? Do you have like a life of gratitude? Are you happy? Like, are you doing more with yourself? Like, or are you just passing the time just being thankful? What are you doing?
So I know it sounds very Pollyannish to say I'm just thankful, I'm just grateful, but I have to say I really am, and I'm like you, that really every day counts and every day is
Yeah.
precious, and we're not guaranteed every day. Other people died who didn't get some of the years that I've gotten in the interim between 9/11 and now, but I do feel like there is an element of paying it forward that I've been committed to. And
Mm,
part of it is I do really appreciate people who helped us
yeah.
during some of those bad moments. We had a lot of people help us. And I think about that a lot. I've never forgotten it. When we were evacuated by boat to New Jersey, we people invited us up to their apartments to use the restroom, to eat, to I literally have a list which I've detailed in different venues of all the people who just really showed us, like, we know that you've been through a hard time. Let us help you get to the other side of it. Let
Yeah.
us help you along your journey. Let's help you recover. Let's help you to take care of some comfort, things that you need for your comfort right now. Same thing with COVID. I remember putting it on my social media. Hey, everybody, please pray. My husband and I have COVID. I'm
Yeah.
hospitalized. It's a tough time. I had people come out of the world. People I haven't seen since college friends sent me, there's somebody from college who sent me a whole bunch of Gatorade, who sent me protein shakes, who sent me some vitamin C powder. People I don't even know. People
Yeah.
really, not only did I really feel like they prayed, people did things to try to help and express their concern and their care that
Yeah.
we definitely pay it forward. My husband and I, for instance, we have a nonprofit that we started in 2016
Hmm.
that helps. It helps people specifically internationally. We had that experience of being out of our home for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
which does not liken me to anything that a homeless person endures or even a refugee. I just got a 2 week taste of what it's like to not have a place to lay our heads. And that affected me so profoundly that specifically our nonprofit helps immigrants and refugees, because I've had a passion for that social justice issue ever since.
Yeah.
And last year we raised 350,000. We don't take any
Mm.
overhead. It's pure money. It goes to different organizations, different churches, different organizations that address that particular issue. So there is an aspect of wanting to have a life of service and paying it
Yeah.
forward, because people went out of their way to help my husband and I. There was a church, for instance, in the aftermath of 9/11, who gave our dog was struggling in a vet's office to survive, and of course we were hit by a very big vet bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
to be facing after 9/11, a big vet bill to keep our dog alive. And actually, we should have let the dog be put down, because he survived. He he struggled until the day he died. But we had this vet bill. A church paid it.
Mm.
Just flat out paid it. There was no, follow up phone calls. I didn't have to submit receipts. I didn't have to identify myself as a Christian.
Yeah.
I could have been any faith. They paid it. And those are things that you don't forget, because when somebody steps into the gap when you need help, you don't forget those things. And there has been an aspect in my life that wants to pay it forward, and it's filled with gratitude.
Man, that's amazing, and that's a blessing, true story. Let me talk about this. So you survived a lot. Out of that surviving, I researched that you're also an author. Is that true? You have a book, or you have books? How many books, and where can we find them?
So I wrote two. One is
Okay.
Out of the Shadow of 9/11, that talks about our experience during 9/11. The other one is Faith in the Face of COVID-19, which is really kind of more of a mental journey of how to process uh, again suffering, going through hard times. And I do touch a lot about the feeling of gratitude and accepting help from communities and being a part of a community.
Yeah.
The nature of COVID was isolation,
Mm.
but isolation only really kind of exacerbates illness
Yeah.
and feeling alone, and feeling that no one cares, or just almost like you're leaving the earth early and nobody even knows, and you're going through all this suffering. But here's the thing, like, we don't live on islands. I mean, we live in community, and I needed my community. I feel like actually a community of people kept me alive,
Yeah.
definitely including my husband during that time. So it's about those aspects that meant a lot to me from that particular experience. And so yeah, I'm actually writing a third book now, and this one's gonna
Mm.
be fun and funny.
Okay.
Can you
Okay.
imagine? It's gonna be a silly romp about my tour guiding experiences. I've been a licensed tour guide since I was 25 years old, and I'm 53 now. So the next one's gonna be fun. I can
So think.
I can laugh, and I do have fun in life. So it's
Yeah.
time to reflect that in my life. So, but
So.
I have written a lot of articles about 9/11, and a lot of them will
Mhm.
be coming up for the 22nd anniversary. I enjoy writing.
So I'm glad you talked about that. That segues into this next part. So I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were a singer in musical theater. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
when I was in my I got my degree in music and moved up to New York to try my luck on the Broadway stage, as one does. And you know
Yeah.
what? But New York City is one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in, and so I was struck with the sticker shock as soon as I arrived. And so we all have day jobs up there. We all have I was side hustling before they even coined the term side hustling, and I had a million of them. Because it turns out my side hustles, I was pretty bad at a lot of things. I'm worse at things than I am good at, right? So I tried bartending and temping and all kinds of stuff. But I decided to become a licensed New York City tour guide to help pay the bills. Actually, a lot of
Yeah.
actors also were tour guides, which is how I heard about it from the acting community. So to
Yeah.
get licensed, you have to take a test, which about New York City history and all kind of things, all in New York,
Hmm.
which I took in 1995, and I've been a
Yeah.
tour guide ever since.
That is
I loved it
crazy.
more than the acting, to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
because it just was so much fun interacting with people and seeing
Yeah.
tourists from around the world. And I still feel like in New York City, I'm a perpetual tourist myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never had the opportunity to go to New York. I'm gonna tell you what. My wife, she's been to New York. It's one thing, and it's probably the only reason I would go. Like, I've always seen, like, on the TV shows, like the hot dog stands, right? Like, I've that like the only reason. This is so horrible of me because I love traveling, but I'm a foodie by nature, right? I love trying new foods. I love like trying the things that I've seen on TV and commercials and all those things, right? And it was something about just going to one of those New York hot dog stands and getting me a hot dog. You know what I mean? So like that's like what intrigues me.
So I became a tour guide in 1995. I was giving tours of the World Trade Center site, like literally like walking tours of the 16 acres. I took people up to the 110th floor observatory and the South
Yeah.
Tower. I was doing that for 6 years before the attacks. And now I am a tour guide of the 9/11 Memorial. So
Yeah.
it's like, so tour guiding has ended up being so much more than just like a side hustle. It
Yeah.
really kind of stuck with me and gave me some unusual experiences. Again, I'm one of only a handful of tour guides left who toured the original 16 acres and took people to the observatory. And there's
Yeah.
something I wouldn't change that for anything.
So seeing the towers, actually seeing the towers, and then going back and seeing the memorial. I've only seen it on TV. How does that make you feel? Like I'm really mushy. I'm really nostalgic. I'm really like I love that stuff, right? But it makes me emotional. When you were giving your tours, the physical building, now giving them with the lights and the memorial, how does that make you feel?
It's wild. I gave a tour of 9/11 just, was it Tuesday? I mean, I give a tour at least weekly, sometimes several times a week. And, I was thinking even this past Tuesday, those buildings should still be there. I
Yeah.
still think that. Like,
Yeah.
this shouldn't be happening. Those buildings should still be there. And it's
Yeah.
not that I just took people into the observatory. I mean, those towers were a part of my life. I've
Mhm.
lived within the neighborhood, um, and toward it ever since I arrived there. There was
Yeah.
a big mall underneath the Twin Towers. I had like 80 something stores. Um, any ladies my age, 53, would recognize a store I went to all the time, which was Casual Corner way back in the day. There was a Casual Corner down there. I used to go there all the time. It was also in the basement a major subway hub, still is, but and it wasn't just the two towers that were filled with offices. We ate there. I had Christmas at Windows on the World with my mother and my sister in 19. Let's see, that would have been. I'm getting my decades. 1997. I mean, it was literally an integral part of my life. And now that I give 9/11 tours, and I have done, in the 20 years, that doesn't erase the original, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean I've gotten used to it.
Yeah.
I will still look at it and say, those towers should still be there.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing this right now. I've
Yeah.
never gotten used to it. And you know what? I tell my story and I rarely make it through without crying. It's been 22 years. This is the 22nd year anniversary. I still cry just about every time I talk about it.
Yeah.
And so no, it's something, it's definitely not something you get used to. Not me.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're down to our last question before we start having fun. And this kind of caught me off guard. You're a tour guide. You talk to people for a living. How did you meet Brian?
So way back in the day, in it would have been 1999,
Right.
I sang on a cruise ship for a year. Right?
Right.
It was called Costa. That was the line.
Okay.
And I was still an actress at the time, so I was singing on a cruise ship, and it was 9 months on, 3 months off. So I was
Right.
on furlough from the cruise ship back in New York, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I've been doing this really cool thing. It's called Match.com. It's kind of like a Build-A-Bear." She called it
Yeah.
a Build-A-Bear for men. What a bizarre! I know. I mean, who does that? She goes, "You got to try it." And gotta say, like, you don't really date on the ship. It's kind of like this alternative reality, that
Yeah.
ship life, and you may be interested in other people, but I wouldn't call palling around that, even if dates. I
Right.
wanted a proper date, like go to a nice restaurant, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'll just go on a couple of dates and then get back on the ship and return to my life. So I
Yeah.
signed up for Match.com, went on a few dates, met my husband within 2 weeks. We were married 6 months later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we're considered one of the oldest still married couples in Match.com's history.
That is crazy.
I think Match.com started in 1995. So it truly was, when we got married in 2000, it truly was still cutting edge and still new. Of course, now
Yeah.
everybody meets online, whatever, Tinder, I don't even know what bagel meets, coffee meets, I don't even know what's out there anymore. But we were still kind of cutting edge. I like to think that Ooh, we started the curve.
I like that. It was funny. I didn't know that you had met him before the tours, before you started giving the tours. But when I saw like a person that speaks for a living, talks to people for a living, to find their spouse on the website, and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I like that. That's pretty amazing. How long you guys been married?
What is
22
it? I'm
years.
really bad at math. It's 23 years. I mean, we got
23.
married March 18th, 2000. So, yeah. And you know what? Match.com knows that we exist and that we're still married. And they will contact me every once in a while and say, hey, will you do this commercial? Or hey, will you do blah, blah, blah. And I think that's great fun. My husband less so. He's not, he's a far more private person than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think how we met is cool, but the cool part now is the fact that we met so early in Match.com's history.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I saw that. I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah. So, Christina, at the end of every show, I like to play a game with my guest, right?
Okay.
The game is called Pick One. You get two choices or options, and you can only choose one. You ready to play?
Okay.
All right. You've written two books. You can only keep one. Which one you keeping?
9/11.
Gotcha. If I'm gonna tell you, you actually stole one of my pick ones. You said that you'd rather be a licensed tour guide than a singer. That was my pick one, so I'm not gonna ask that. So I'm finna give you one off the cuff. Out of all the tours you've given, which one stands out in your mind the most?
I conducted a 4-day tour of a woman from Dagestan in Russia and helped her spend $4 million. She was on a shopping spree.
That is a spree.
It was a spree. She actually probably spent a lot more, but she brought jewelry on our time together. And you know how much jewelry can be, and I wasn't privy to how much she spent. But I helped her spend $4 million in the city in the 4 days that I was with her.
That's a solid one. I give you the quote, "This is my moment." What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Oh, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Jekyll and Hyde song. This is the moment, and all the odds. So it's a song.
I
I'm
love
a musical theater person. Hey, songs pop up out of nowhere.
That was probably the best answer I've had in 2 seasons. I've never had no one sing to me. Appreciate that. Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
It's a wonderful Broadway song from Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, okay. I've never seen the show.
You know, you got a musical theater lover win.
Yeah, no lie. That is amazing. Miss Christina, we are done.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks. It's tough things to talk about, but hopefully there was some inspirational tidbits in there.
I'm gonna close the show out. Don't leave. I'm gonna come right back to you, okay? Hey guys, here's the deal. You can go through traumatic events and they're not gonna go away. Deal with them, learn how to deal with them, learn what your triggers are, and you can move forward. It's okay to remember. It's okay to have that thought. But understand that you have to move forward to progress. At the end of the day, it's your life, and we only get one chance at it. Progress, knowing what your triggers are. And then, at the end of the day, go get it!
We bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about growth, all about success. We wanna see you rise, wanna see you at your best. Hey, keep it rolling, we gotta keep